War of the Visions is getting a bunch of raid reruns, and it's a great opportunity for newer players to get access to raid pieces of gear that were released when they weren't around yet, or more casual players to get the chance to finally +5 some pieces of gear. It's one of the most generous events in terms of the rewards you get by the time you invest, so it's definitely worth it for players to put some time into it. Now, today's video is about which pieces of gear are the most important and which ones you should focus on, whether you're a newer player or an older player in the game. I will not be doing a guide on how to clear these missions, since they are exact reruns of previous missions that existed in War of the Visions. I will have a link in the description below, however, of my raid guides for these raids. So if you want to know how to clear them, just watch these, and think that if you're now bringing EX unit into them, these were released before the EX era, so they are going to be very easy compared to today's meta. The one big limitation is that the number of turn is drastically reduced, so you might end up running out of turns, and you need to clear it in a single go, otherwise you're not getting any benefits. So here's a quick overview of how these things work. If you clear normal, you're gaining around 600 medals a clear. For brutal clears, you're gaining 1500. If you're the host, you can get more. I've gotten an extra 750 when I was testing it out, so it's quite a bit of a bonus, but you're also using up energy. And then these, if you can't find them, that's because they're only in multi, so you cannot actually do that in single player. From my experience, clearing this is not too hard. If you have a Black Rose Helena, you just send her in, and a party of 4 Black Rose will basically wipe whichever one of those raids you try. But if you want to be more specific, the Behemoth is weak to Pierce and Light, the Ifrit is weak to Water and Magic, the Brown Marshmallow is weak to Wind and Missile, a bunch of Tifas are going to run through him, and then the White Marshmallow is weak to Light and, Dark and Slashing. So that's what you need to run to clear them, but yeah, watch the previous guides, that's going to be a lot more complete than what I just said right now. Here's a very quick overview before we go deep into each piece of gear. If you want to craft some +5s, I recommend you start with accuracy gear. The reason being, these pieces of gear are leagues above anything else currently available in the game, and so they are always going to be your best choice if you want to equip a piece of accuracy gear. Then you should probably go for some +0 versions of a couple defensive pieces of gear, especially if you're a newer player. Even at +0, you don't gain like the extra magic resistance or the extra missile resistance, but you gain the same amount of defense and HP, and these are the most important stats that these pieces of equipment give you. So having a bunch of +0s that can equip on all your guys is going to give you a huge power-up for newer accounts. Then some other pieces of gear are good, but not quite as competitive as the one up top, so I'm saying build them as needed, especially the Purple Lightning. It's going to be best in slot for a couple characters, but is it really worth all the effort you will spend building it? Well, that depends if you like those characters or not. And then the chocolate marshmallow earrings should not exist. I would take them, put them in the dumpster, and that's basically it. Okay, on to a more detailed review now. So talking about accuracy, these pieces of gear give respectively 40 and 35 accuracy, which is leagues above anything else currently available in the game. I'm really glad that I have a couple of these, because whenever I need to fight a very evading mission or an evasion team in PvP, this is very reliable in giving me a chance to hit them. If you want to go the Alexandrite Ring route, you get the full 40 accuracy. It is the highest accuracy piece of gear in the game, and it gives you a bit of elemental resistance. The White Marshmallow thingy is a little bit more weird. It gives you some crit chance and then some status effect resistance, but the status effect resistance does not cover the most important status effects in the game, being Stop, Charm, Disable, so you get something good, but not extremely versatile. Still, if you gave me the choice between 1 +5 of one of these and only one, I would pick the White Marshmallow, because I think the status effect resistance is great in a lot of context, especially some PvE missions where you need some paralyze resistance or some sleep resistance in order to be able to clear the mission. So it's overall a little bit more versatile in my opinion. And then, well, if you're going for the Alexandrite Ring, you're going to need to clear the Brown Marshmallow for the materials you need. Otherwise, the White Marshmallow one, you can clear either Behemoth or the White Marshmallow, so you got 2 options of raids to clear in order to get the materials for them. So you're done with your accuracy gear, or you don't want to focus on that, and you're wondering where you should focus. I definitely recommend accessories first. The reason is very simple. Accessories can be equipped to anybody in the game, so you don't have to worry about whether they are a heavy armor user or a helmet user or etc. You can just slap that on anybody you want to use, and you'll still benefit from your piece of gear. In between these two defensive, I would say definitely get a couple +0 versions of whichever one you prefer, because you know, defensive stats are very important no matter the type of content you're trying to clear. You could go for the Elf Cloak. It gives you a little bit more HP than the other one, and then Confusion Resistance, even at +0. If you do get it to +10, you get some Pierce Resist on top, which is fun, but right now there's not a lot of it in the meta. There will be more in the future when Oberon is released, though. Otherwise, you could go for the Defense Bracer. This one gives you a little bit more Spirit, Accuracy, and Evasion, a little bit less HP, but it has Disable Resistance, and Disable, to me, is a lot worse than Confusion, so just for that, it gets a lot of bonus points. And then it's going to give you some Missile Resist if you get it to +5. It's a little bit weird, it gives a lot of resistance, but only for the first 3 turns. But then again, when you fight a Missile team, you usually use the first couple turns to close in on them, so I guess it's fine. And then, as you can see on screen, if you want the Defense Ring, you should go for Ifrit. If you want the Elf Cloak, you should go for Behemoth or White Marshmallow. If you gave me the choice, again, between a +5 of the Ring or a +5 of the Elf Cloak, I would take the Ring, but it's very close, so really whichever you prefer will be fine. Now, there are some very specialized accessories in the game. Soul of Thamasa is one of them. I consider it to be a very, very good piece of gear. The thing is, you get most of your benefits by taking it all the way to +5 though, so it's not the kind of thing that a +0 is going to make a huge difference in your account. If you have the magic version, which is the one I prefer, you have decent magic, decent TP ups, and then, yeah, by going to +5, you get silence resistant, magic resistance, and then some magic resistance penetration. I like having that piece of gear when I want to build my character a little bit tanky with some magic resistance and just forego the weapon. It gives enough magic that I don't need to take a weapon with me, and my units still perform very well. So if you're looking for something, you already have your defenses covered, your accuracy covered, getting a +5 Soul of Thamasa is definitely a good piece of gear. Then the Chocolate Earrings, they're the item that give the most HP in the game for a couple turns, and they have some stun resistance, and it's the only source of stun resist, so that could be good, I guess, but honestly, outside of Drain Force builds, HP that only lasts for a couple turns just seems weird and weak to me. I would prefer equipping something else over this piece of gear. Now, you have your defensive accessories crafted, and you want to level up your game a little bit. The clothing are going to be a bit better than accessories in general. If you have crafted a defense ring or an elf cloak, I would focus on the Galmia coat first, because this one provides you with spirit and HP, while the accessories that you had were mainly focused on physical survivability through defense and HP, so you have something a little bit different. And then the Galmia coat, if you get it to +4, gives you 20% magic and 30% magic at +5, so it's great at +5, but honestly, even at +4, it's a very competitive piece of gear that you could use. If you want to build a plat robe, you are getting 2 more points of defense than you would get from the elf cloak or the defense ring, so it is a little bit of an upgrade. You also get some more HP, but the marginal gain is not that great, so you don't necessarily have to focus on that too much. If you do get it to +5 though, the 10% missile resistance is always fun, especially when you're expecting to fight some ranged enemies. In between these two, I would say at least craft a couple +0s Galmia coats, because it's a good way to give some spirit to your light armor wearing characters, and there's no accessory that's going to give you exactly the same amount. Alright, on to physical armor, and here it's a bit of a tough choice, because you have 2 spirit up pieces of gear that you can farm. In between the two, the knight armor that's on top will give you more HP and spirit than the platinum helm can give you. So if you're not planning on crafting a +5, just craft the armor, you will be better covered. If you do get them to +5 though, they have a different role. The knight armor gives you magic resistance, while the platinum helm gives you slash resistance. I really love using my +5 plat helm, but farming a +5 is a lot of work, so you have to pick your battles there. The Brigandine has a top tier HP and defense, and then some AoE resistance. It's a really hard to build, hard to beat piece of gear. And then it's the only one out of these 3 that gives defense. The only issue, and it's the reason why I'm putting it at the bottom, is it only works for sword and greatsword using characters. So it's not all your heavy armor users that will be able to use it. So if you're trying to be versatile, again, elf cloak, defense ring, build that first, and then if you want to build some more specialized piece of gear, having 1 or 2 Brigandines could be a very good thing. The fun thing is all 3 of these are farmed by farming the Ifrit, so you don't have to make your choice until later on when you already have a ton of materials. Again, if I had to make a choice between any of those, I would focus on the knight armor first. The magic resistance is good against a lot of enemies, and it has a lot of HP and spirit, and then can be equipped by any heavy armor user as opposed to the Brigandine. Finally, Purple Lightning is a tough call. It is best in slot for Laswell, obviously, since he uses ice attacks. It is also best in slot for Rob, unless you're trying to run him as a Lancer and absolutely want to do some Pierce attacks, but I feel like Rob works well with only slash attacks. It would be best in slot for Tubi if you only factor in slash attacks, but Tubi has some Pierce and Strike attacks that are very strong and key to her kit, and so because of that, I typically prefer using the Virtuous Contract, which will provide slightly less slash attack, but a little bit more damage on the piercing moves. So it's a tough call, but overall, unless you're really focused on those characters, it is not worth the effort to go all the way to a +5. Getting a +0 is just fine though, because you will still be getting the elemental damage up, you just won't get all the slash damage up. So even at +0, it's still best in slot for Laswell. So, we're back at the overview page. For my plan this week, I plan on focusing a lot on the Soul of Tamasa and Galmia Code. The reason being, I basically have a +5 version of all of those if I want to, or at least I have enough recipes and material to get those. And so I have 2 +5 pieces of accuracy gear, 1 ring, 1 marshmallow. Don't feel the need to get a third one, usually 2 is enough for my teams. I do want the second Soul of Tamasa though, because it's just so good when replacing a weapon, and it saves me the trouble of crafting staves and books and a lot of other things for other characters, and I love saving a bit of time. Galmia Code, just top tier magic and spirit, it's hard to beat if you can have a couple of those. But yeah, that's my plan for this week. I would be very curious to hear about yours, so if you want to share that in the comment, I will gladly read and respond. So that was it. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. And then as per usual, guys, I will see you in the next video.